Today we're going to do 6.4 and we are talking about circles, and we need to get 3 definitions down before we can start. The first definition being a circle. A circle is a set of points in a given plane that are a fixed distance from a given point, and that's called the center. The next definition is radius, and a radius connects the center to any point on the circle. The final one is diameter, and this connects 2 points on the circle and it passes through the center. Alright, I want to show you an example of these last 3 terms. So we all know what a circle looks like. So here's an example of a circle. At the very center is where you would see, obviously, your center. So let's just label this center. Your radius, as from the previous definition, it's going to connect your center to any point on the circle. So this red line is an example of a radius. A diameter connects 2 points on the circle and passes through the center. So it would look something like this. We need to get one more definition down, and that's circumference. And your circumference is going to be your distance around a circle. So if we were to start at any point on the circle, so let's say we start right up here at the top, and we just follow around on the purple line, that is the circumference. So it doesn't make sense to always have to be able to measure that. So there are 2 ways to find circumference, and you want to get these 2 formulas down. The first way is to do pi times the diameter. So whatever our diameter length is, you just multiply that by pi. Or you can do circumference is going to equal 2 pi times the radius. And if we think about this, the radius is just the diameter, but it's doubled. That's why we have to do 2r, because that will give us the diameter. Let's practice finding the circumference, and we're going to practice this 2 different ways. The first way that we're going to practice it is when we're given the radius. So remember, if I give you the radius of 5 centimeters, circumference equals 2 pi r. Since we're given the radius, we want to use this formula because that's what matches this. So all we're going to do is we're going to plug in what we know. Well, circumference equals 2 pi, that's given. And now let's plug in 5 for r. Now we can multiply. I'm going to multiply 2 times 5. So I'm going to rewrite this as c equals 10 pi. Now every time that you see pi, we're just going to use 3.14. So in your calculator, you're going to do 3.14 times 10. So the circumference of this circle would be 31.4. Now we cannot forget our units, so we have to include centimeters. Let's try another one. This time, I'm going to tell you that the diameter is 1.5 inches. So now we have to think, well, if I'm given diameter, we need to use the formula pi times diameter. So I'm just going to plug in what I know. Pi is going to stay the same, and we can plug in 1.5. Again, I need to use 3.14 in my calculator when I'm solving this. So my circumference is going to be 4.7, and again we have to include our unit of inches. Now you're going to need to make sure that when you do homework or a test or a quiz that you follow the read the directions carefully. We're always going to round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so that one spot. Let's talk about how to find area of a circle. And remember, your area is always just the inside. To find area of a circle, the formula that we're going to use is pi times the radius squared. Alright, let's find the area of this circle that is given. I have enough information to solve this because the radius, remember, is whatever connects any point on the outside of a circle to the inside. So my radius in this triangle is 3 units. So what I'm going to do is, using the formula, I'm going to plug in 3 for r. So I'm going to say area equals pi times 3 squared. Now remember, this means 3 times 3, not 3 times 2. So I'm going to rewrite this, and 3 times 3 is 9, so 9 pi. Remember, for any time we see pi, we're going to use 3.14, and let's round to the nearest tenths again. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 9 times 3.14, and I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So it ends up being 28.3, and then I need to include units squared. Let's practice finding area. For this first problem, they're telling me that the radius equals 5 centimeters. So again, remember the formula for finding area is pi r squared. So in this case, we have our radius, so we can just plug in 5 for r. So pi times 5 squared. So what is 5 times 5? You should have come up with 25 pi. Now in your calculator, do 25 times 3.14. Again, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So you should get 78.5. And then again, we have to remember our units. So centimeters squared. Let's try another one. What if I am given a diameter of 1.5 inches? Now, we don't have diameter in our formula, but remember, if we go back and look at that original problem or the original example with a circle, a diameter is just half, or excuse me, a radius is just half of a diameter. So our first step here is we need to do 1.5, and we need to find half of it. So we have to divide by 2 so that we can figure out what the radius is. So if you do that, you end up getting 0.75. So our radius is 0.75 inches. Now we can plug it into our equation, or our formula. So area equals pi times 0.75 squared. See if you can fill out or finish it out on your own. What you should have gotten is 0.75 squared is 0.5625, and we're going to multiply that by pi, or 3.14 in our calculator, round to the nearest tenth, and we get 1.8 inches squared. Let's try one more example, and I want you to do these ones on your own, so pause the video after I give you the instructions and then see if you can solve for them. I want you, using this picture, to find the area, circumference. So what you need to do is go back and look at your notes and figure out which formulas are you going to need to use. So go ahead and pause it, and then when you have it all figured out, press play and compare your answers to mine. So I'm going to start with circumference. So we had two equations for circumference. The first one we had was circumference equals pi times diameter. And the second one was circumference equals 2 pi r. Now, if I look at this picture, this figure, they're giving me a radius. So that means I need to use the second formula. So I'm going to say circumference equals 2 times pi times 2. So if I rewrite this, I can do 4 pi. I'm going to use 3.14 in my calculator, and I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So when I do that, I end up getting 12.5 12.6 units. Now if I'm talking about area, I know that to find area, I have to do pi r squared. And I'm already given a radius, so I can just plug that in. So my area is pi times 2 squared. Now this ends up being very similar to the other one because again I'm just going to get 4 pi, which we already solved. I know that's 12.6, but now I need to include units squared. Make sure you have all the formulas written down, and now you can do your exit slip.